So at this point, I already have Enhanced Ecommerce implemented on my website, and I have GTM implemented on my website. What I now want to do is to connect those two elements with UserEngage. So I want to implement UserEngage in connection with Enhanced Ecommerce. Basically, all I have to do right now is download a file inside this article called UserEngage plus Enhanced Ecommerce GTM integration. So I download this file. Once I have it downloaded, I can import it into my GTM account. As you can see from previous tutorials, I have some variables here, I have some triggers and some tags, which I don't need, but I will show you in a second what you can do with that. So I go to admin, now import container. I'll go with existing workplace, default workplace, and I will override, which means that basically instead of what I have right now, I will have this new container. I just have to choose the right file now. Now I have to choose the container file. It's here, I choose it. Okay, so it contains 10 new tags, 9 new triggers, and 39 new variables. I will confirm this operation. And all of those elements have been added. Let's see tags. As you can see, for different interactions, I have events now. I have a separate event for implementation of the tool. So it looks like everything worked fine. So what do I have to do now? I open the implementation tag and have to paste my API key from the URL of my website and save it. All right, let's refresh the container. Let's see what happens. As you can see, the implementation tag has been fired. So basically, the basic implementation works. The API key is here, but user ID and email are not. So what could happen? The truth is that every website developer might name those user ID and email attributes differently. On my website, those attributes are called visitor ID and visitor email, I think. So let's see how they are called in this variable. So I scroll down to UserEngage email, and as you can see, the name of this dataLayer variable is different. This is why it was not retrieved. It should be called visitor email. Okay. And user ID should be called visitor ID, and the same here. All right, so now we can save it, refresh, and go back to our application. Let's see how it works this time. Well, it worked. And as you can see, the user ID now works, retrieves data, and email the same. So the first thing that you have to make sure is that the basic implementation works fine, that the API key works correctly, that you pass user ID correctly and email correctly. As I said in the previous tutorials, if your website does not include user ID in the data layer at all, you have to make sure that the developer does that, so that he lays out the user ID in the data layer. Alright, so this is part 1 of the customization. Let's move on to part 2. The second thing is that we have to check if all the events are being triggered correctly. So, for example, I'll refresh now. And let's add some product to cart. Let's see what happens. As you can see here, an event has been triggered. This event is called gtm4wp.addProductToCartEEC. Now again, what I suspect that is wrong, because as you can see, no tag has been fired, so the data about the product being added to cart has not been sent to UserEngage. So what I think is that the name of this event might be different than the one configured in my tag. So I copy this attribute, go to Tag Manager, go to Triggers, add to cart, and as you can see, the event name does not match. So I should paste here gtm4wp.addProductToCartEEC, and the same here. Let's save it and refresh. Back to our website. Now we can refresh and let's click add to cart. Let's see what happens now. The event has been triggered. Let's click on it. Okay, everything is fine. Now we can go to the user profile and refresh and see if the event, yes, a few seconds ago, as you can see, I added to cart a product called woo single #2. So the event has been recorded. As you can see, it includes all the attributes of the dataLayer event. So the code behind it, this code, Enhanced Ecommerce works a little bit differently than UserEngage in terms of generating events, because it can generate a single event such as checkout with different products inside. UserEngage works a little bit different. It would rather have a single event for a single product. So how did we solve that? We take the event of Enhanced Ecommerce, take the attribute add that product, so this attribute includes all the products that this event refers to. In this case, adding a product to a cart is only one, but for example, checkout could be multiple products at the same time. And for every product inside this event, it generates a separate UserEngage event, including all the attributes and all the values from the original event. So even if you don't have a standard or typical Enhanced Ecommerce implementation and you have some more events, some custom events that your developers have created, they will be mapped here and sent to UserEngage. Now all you have to do is go to your website, open the debugger mode, so this preview mode, and simply perform all of the events that you have here on your website and check the names that come up. So, for example, in my case, that was GTM4WP.add product to cart EEC. Then you should change the trigger of an event and then it should work perfectly. So this is the only thing that you have to customize except from the basic implementation code, which we've covered at the beginning of this tutorial. Another thing is that in some cases you might not have all of those events, and that's okay. If your website structure does not fit the tracking of Enhanced Ecommerce, this is completely fine. Now the last element of this tutorial is a dedicated tutorial only for those of you who are using WooCommerce.